All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:40. This is October 13th, 2021. I'm calling the meeting of the Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee to order at 7:40. Jeremy, we're here to discuss the resolution. Without exception, I'm going to change the agenda a little bit. Instead of approving and voting to approve on the minutes, we're going to skip that without anybody's objection and start the discussion on the opt-out provisions for Public Act 2129 for the state mandated parking standard for multifamily housing. And then when we have a quorum that comes in, we will then take a vote on that and then vote lastly on the minutes. Okay, with that, in the essence of time, Jeremy, do you want to just recap for the group the chain of events that has happened since we last spoke?
Sure. Thank you, Amy. Like to acknowledge George Riley, Planning and Zoning Commission members here joining us tonight to help out if need be. I wasn't sure if you all got the resolution from Wayne Fox yet, or you're going to be getting that prior to the meeting. Amy, did everyone get that, or it's something that usually comes out this weekend?
Yeah, everybody got a copy of the resolution.
Okay, great. I'll walk you through a little bit. Basically, this relates to recent changes in the state statutes as a result of Public Act 21-29. Part of that Public Act was to codify, change, amend the zoning enabling statute, section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes. And part of that statute prohibits planning and zoning commissions from doing certain things. And that was amended to specifically limit how much parking a planning and zoning commission can require for multifamily housing, whether it be condominiums or apartments. And this was regardless of whether the units are elderly, affordable, high-end, or whatever. It's solely based on the number of bedrooms. So the standard was established by this statute, and planning and zoning commissions have the ability to opt out of this provision of the statutes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the provision is, what your local Darien Planning and Zoning Commission decided to do, and how that's going to be done. So the standard set up by the state is based on the number of bedrooms. So for a studio apartment or one-bedroom apartment, Planning and Zoning Commission cannot require more than one parking space. For anything 2 bedrooms or more, they cannot require more than 2 parking spaces. And although they're allowed to what's called opt out of that provision and establish whatever provision they want if they follow this procedure. So I'll tell you a little bit about the procedure. The procedure starts with the Planning and Zoning Commission having a public hearing, which they did last Tuesday, October 5th. That hearing was held to establish what provisions the Planning and Zoning Commission wishes to have. The commission, and I'll talk about those provisions shortly. The commission closed the public hearing, and they voted last night about 7:30 p.m. to opt out of the state standard. The next step is for publication of that vote. That publication will be in tomorrow's Stanford Advocate. And then, as Amy acknowledged, it's got to go to the full RTM and get passed by a 2/3 vote. The statute required that the Planning and Zoning Commission also have a 2/3 vote. And in our case, it was a unanimous 6-0 vote. So that's why it's going before the RTM on Monday, the 18th. The commission could not do anything before October 1st because that's when the change in the statutes went into effect. So let me talk a little bit now more about the substance of why the commission felt it was important for Darien to opt out. As I said, the state standard for studio and one-bedroom units was established at 1 parking space per unit. And the commission felt that for studio apartments, that might be appropriate. But if you think about a one-bedroom condo or apartment, it's highly likely that you might have a married couple or two people living in that apartment or condo, and both of them are likely to own cars. So the commission felt that the standard for one-bedroom units might be a little light by allowing 1.5 units, which is what the commission decided on for a one-bedroom, versus a one-bedroom as established by the state of Connecticut. It gave room on site for any guest parking or couples that live in a one-bedroom to have an extra parking space on site. Certainly, many addresses in town might have the ability to park on the street or off-site, but there are a lot of places in Darien that you want to make sure you have enough on-site parking. If you think of someone who might live on Middlesex Road or Hoyt Street or Mansfield Avenue, there's really nowhere you could park on the local streets, even temporarily, but especially overnight. The commission acknowledged that sometimes during the winter, Public Works wants the roads cleared for snow plowing. They also acknowledged the fact that in Darien, many more people may own vehicles than in, say, other parts of the state, and that some parts of Darien, really, you can only reach them by vehicle. And if you live up on Stephen Mather Road, it's not really a very walkable location. The commission also looked at the standards for two-bedroom apartments and condos and above, three-bedroom, etc. They felt that for 3 or more bedroom apartments, they felt a more appropriate standard than 2 spaces per unit would be 2.5 spaces per unit. Again, for the reasons I just enunciated. So the commission has put together their own standard, which is a reduction from where it used to be in Darien. They adopted that standard in July because they knew that this provision was likely to be coming down from the state. So when the commission opted out, they opted out to a reduced version of what they had. They felt that a reduction was in order, but not to the full extent that the state was imposing on communities. So they did elaborate and outlined in their decision.
I apologize for bothering you.
No
problem.
Bye-bye.
Let's talk later, though.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
All right? I'll talk to you.
So the commission last night did outline their reasons for opting out, which were included but not limited to safety concerns. And then, as I said, now it goes to the RTM. You have Wayne Fox's one-page resolution. I think, George, it may be sensible to get the RTM, the commission's decision from last night, so they can see that firsthand and understand the reasons that the commission listed last night. So we'll try to get that out to Seth Morton in tomorrow's mail.
Yeah, there are
answer any questions.
Just wanted to add, Jeremy, that there are specific reasons. You just laid them out, but they are in the resolution itself, and I'm sure it would be helpful to see them in writing in that resolution.
Exactly. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think that outlines it. There was the state statute that changed. The commission had to decide how to react. Since it took effect October 1st, this was really the quickest they could react. And the vote of the commission was unanimous to opt out of the state standard.
I'd like to just make a notation for the record that it is now 7:49. Mike Wheeler has joined us, and now we do have a quorum. Thank you, Mike, for shifting your schedule around and joining us. I'm sorry. Carry on. George, you were going to give us a synopsis of the P&Z hearing commission meeting from last night.
Well, Jeremy really did just do that, and that is encompassed in the written resolution that we adopted unanimously last night. So when you see it, you will understand that. The one other comment I'd like, well, maybe two other comments I'd like to make is the comment that, you may need more than one car to live in town and get to our transit hubs. I think of the apartments that used to be the executive offices across from Rory's. I'm afraid I can't think of it at the moment, but
Garden Homes.
Thank you. Yeah, Garden Homes, right. Folks there, that's not an easy walk to do to and fro if you've got to get to the train. And Parklands, there's the prospect of a significant apartment complex coming in on Parklands, and that would be a long walk. So there are a number of spots, and I'm sure you go to the other end of town and do the same exercise and find that prospective affordable housing will still need folks who will have more than one vehicle. So that may be a little unique to Darien, I'm not sure, but we believe it is a fact in Darien. And so we do favor the slightly larger requirement for parking because, as Jeremy said, you can't park on the streets in Darien in most places, and certainly not during the winter months from November, December until the spring. So you've got to have a provision for parking. And the other thing that I don't mind saying, because I'm an elected official, so I can say this, and I don't expect Jeremy to go there, but we do enjoy local authority here in town. We do understand Darien better than the folks in Barkhamsted do and elsewhere in the state. And I think that's why we were given this opt-out provision throughout the state. The state requirements are just too tight for Darien. And we think we know better, frankly, and that may be somewhat arrogant, but that's the deal. And we know this town, we've been living with these rules for many years, and we've had the autonomy to make our own rules. And we think this is an important area where we should continue to be able to make our own rules. And so we do favor exactly that, the local autonomy in this particular provision. And so that we favor opting out of what the state has done and using the provisions that the state has provided for us.
Yeah. And my apologies if during my scramble of trying to reach people to get a quorum that I missed. Jeremy, did you state in prior that the history of after the bill, the Public Act was in fact voted in, there was a public hearing that the Planning and Zoning Commission did hold in July, in June, in which Terry Wood and Matt Blumenthal both attended and did talk about, their thoughts about the opt-out provision and why it was in fact included, and it was included for towns to take advantage of if they in fact felt that they, had local knowledge that served the town's needs better. So I think that was endorsed from both Matt and Terry, from my recollection.
That's correct.
George, would you agree that that was the case back in June? I think that hearing was June. Yep.
Yes, I was there, and that's exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
They happened to be aligned on that topic.
Yeah, they did. They definitely seem to be aligned, which is, so I'm going to open it up to the group. Does anybody have any questions? I know we've talked about this before. This is not the first time that we've gathered as a group to discuss this, but I will open it up for any other questions before I call for a vote.
I've got one question. Does the opt-out provision require us to put in limits, or can we do that on a case-by-case basis? For example, if a housing project is going in on Middlesex versus a different street.
No, really, Scott, that's a good question. Zoning regulations are designed that you have to be consistent in each zone. So if you're in the same zoning district, for example, you can only have one standard per district. It gets, you can imagine how confusing these regulations can be, and certainly that's what I do for a living, is try to administer these and give people correct answers as to what you can do to your property. But in a case like this, it does make sense for us to put the one standard for the entire town. Now, one thing I want to mention is, which is important to your question, Scott, is this standard only affects, I'll call it, standalone multifamily projects. So for example, if you think of the Royal at Darien or Garden Homes, those are standalone. There's no overflow parking on an adjacent property. But many times what you'll see for, say, the Federal Realty project on Heights Road, where they have a residential or retail on the first floor and the upper floor apartments, there is a shared parking situation. And this standard would only play one factor because the commission in its regulations has the ability to reduce it down with the understanding that, hey, at 10 o'clock at night, no one's getting their nails done. So all those workers who show up to serve ice cream or file your nails or sell t-shirts, they're gone. And so there's more room for the residents to park. So I wanted to make that distinction. I'm glad you brought that up, Scott. This only applies to, I'll call it standalone sites like say Avalon, where they don't have any overflow parking.
Yeah, it's not for mixed use.
Correct.
Jeremy, it doesn't affect how I'm going to vote, but I'm curious if any other towns voted yet.
Well, again, Mike, this change in the statute just took effect October 1st, which is about 2 weeks ago. We really had to scramble to have our public hearing on the 5th and vote on the 12th. So I expect that we've tried to expedite this. And the reason for that is to accommodate the RTM schedule, because when I spoke to Seth, he said, the November meeting is usually an organizational meeting. The December meeting is usually state of the town address. So he said, if you really want the RTM to focus on this, best to present it for the October meeting. So we are, as far as I know, one of the first in the state to address this, but I do expect other communities to start looking at this and opting out.
Thanks.
Sorry, my question was just, is there any issue with like number of handicap accessible parking spaces? Would this affect that, or is that a standard percentage? I don't actually know how that's usually figured out.
Yeah, that's a good question, Amy. The building code, which is administered by the building official, determines the number of handicap parking spaces per unit or per project. So that's solely based upon the building code, which I think is a percentage of the overall parking spaces. So there will still be handicap parking spaces in any size development, and the ratio would be the same, whatever the building code says, whether it's 1 per 10 units or 1 per 20 or whatever it is, that same amount will still have to be included.
Okay. No other questions? Okay, can I make a motion to call for a vote, whether we support the opt-out provision and that we make our recommendation for the RTM body to do the same? Anybody care to make a motion to vote? Okay, Amy and Mike. All right, all those in favor of the opt-out provision and approving and recommending to the RTM? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who was the 6th? Susan Lauritsen?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So it's unanimous. All right. Thank you very much, Jeremy and George, for your time and dedication, as always, to all things Darien. And now at this, we're going to now go back and vote on the minutes, and then we'll conclude the meeting. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well done, folks.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
In your original meeting agenda, there were included minutes of the Planning, Zoning, and Housing meeting that we last had in September 16th. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Anyone? Mike?
Yeah.
Mike and Amy, okay.
Second, Susan.
Laura, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That is all I have for us for tonight. Mike Wheeler, thank you so much for popping over. I don't know what happened to Liz. I've been texting her, but I haven't heard back from her. Maybe she just slipped her mind. So in any event, because this is a special meeting, we can't add any other discussion to it since last week was our regular meeting. Now, when you warn a special meeting, you can't add anything that's not already on the agenda. So we do need to close the meeting. Everybody in favor of adjourning? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
My students got a snow day.
Yeah, 7:59.